Hello, I'm Kim Wade. Thank you so much for opening this. I am the owner of Inner Gaze Yoga. I'm also the creator of the Inner Circle, which is the healthy habit group for wild women over 40. And then I've just recently launched my self-care for the healthcare professional, really addressing the needs of people in the healthcare industry right now over the last 2 years, really struggling with tremendous trauma. So I'm excited about all these programs, but I know the reason you're here is because you've got some version of this. I'm so smart. Why can't I lose weight? I'm so smart. Why can't I quit smoking? I'm so smart. Why can't I leave this relationship? Right? We have these ideas that we should be able to be doing things that we know we should do, but we're not actually doing it. So welcome here to the Empowering Women One Habit at a Time. So what I'd like to do is open up my PowerPoint for you. And we'll just make that big here. Let's see. Okay, the science of habits, empowering women one habit at a time. So we're going to go through this short webinar and we're going to talk a little bit. I'll say who I am, a little bit more about me. Then we'll talk about the science of habits. And then I'd like to tell you at the end about my healthy habit group and then have you make a decision and break one of your habits that most likely you have at some level and practice doing that right here in this workshop. So let's see how it goes. The science of habit. So welcome, Inner Gaze Yoga. I told you a little bit. I'm the owner of Inner Gaze, and these are the programs I've been running. I've been doing this business about 10 years. And one of the women who has been in my programs, she actually came up with this, a loving community of people who choose to live deliberately. And I can't say it better than myself. And so I'm stealing that from her. Thank you, Jennifer. So yeah, I run a healthy habit women's group, and I also have an online yoga studio. So if you join the Inner Circle group, you get all these yoga classes too. Classes in gentle, restorative, yin, yin-ish is what I call it. We focus on strong hips, back, and core. There's flow, there's abs and arms where we're grabbing light weights. I know that it's great to talk, and I know that it's great to think and all that, but there is something very powerful about moving it into body too. And so a lot of my work is about the thought that our physical body is a sponge. It soaks in our stress. It soaks in the emotions that we are perseverating in. And so getting in movement, whether it be walking or yoga classes or something, is really, really crucial to overall moving through our traumas. So here I am. This is some things that came up on a survey I recently did. I know you don't know me, most of you. So people seem to like what I'm doing. And it's always embarrassing to put this stuff up here, but it's important for you to know what other people are saying. This is my sugar bear Wade. We got her. She is indeed a COVID dog. And we like to call her the laptop or the seatbelt because when she lays on you, she presses. So there's no work getting done when sugar's on your lap. These are my twin 17-year-olds. We last June went to Florida and we drove. So we drove and Sugar Bear Wade went with us and it was really, really super fun. And this was an hour on our way home after having driven 22 hours there and 22 hours back. So these are my precious, precious babies. Okay, now that's a little bit about me. Let's talk about a little bit about that brain of yours. So before we get into that, we have to talk about who you're talking to. Who is your brain? Who am I talking to? Who is this really ideal for? And when I built it, who am I imagining? One, there are 100 women right now who have a mismanagement of their time. Either they feel they don't have the time or they're not using their time. They feel like they're wasting it and they feel as if their lives have somehow gotten out of control. Number two, there are 100 women out there right this very minute who lack passion or drive in their lives. Someone said ambivalent recently. They do not have their one thing that they feel truly passionate about. They don't have a sense of adventure or something that would even fire them up if they tried to imagine. They spend a great deal of time in negative or worried thinking, and they find it very difficult imagining their lives in any other way. And third, finally, there are 100 women right now I know who do not have a community or a support system or an anchoring place of any sort where they can sort of touch ground on a regular and consistent basis. Maybe they have a knockoff where they meet once a month or but this is this consistent weekly idea. They have little to no in-depth self-reflection in their lives. They're not pausing and checking in with themselves. They live basically from the surface, basically from what they see, hear, taste, smell, and touch. They're just living from the senses. And they often feel that they're overwhelmed or cartwheeling through their lives. They have little consistency or routines, and they commonly struggle with setting boundaries for themselves or with others. Do you know anybody like that? Are you like that? I was like that. So one of the reasons I built this inner circle group was to teach myself how to take care of myself. And as I started to do it, more and more women said, hey, I want to know what you're doing. How are you doing? And so this is how it built. We've been running the inner circle for about 7, almost 8 years now at this point in 2022. So yeah, we're really learning about how to build these self-cares as a daily way of life. But what are self-care rituals? What are habits? Let's talk a little bit about that. So what is a habit? Is a habit is a cue, thought, behavior with a perceived reward loop. So there you are, a cue, a thought, behavior, and then a perceived reward loop. That's, you got to perceive that reward, perceive that reward, perceive that reward, and a thought and a cue go together. It's created when a certain cue, right? Something happens, triggers a certain thought. So something happens, triggering a certain thought, and then a response, a behavioral response happens because you're assuming that there's going to be a reward. Of course, you know, a habit will grow deeper the more it's repeated, right? And eventually the habits just sort of drop into the automaticness of our lives, and they just run repeatedly on the background. We drive to work and we didn't even remember driving because it was just so automatic, living more and more from our unconscious mind. Science tells us 55% of our lives are running in unconscious loops. So over half your life right now is in an unconscious loop. And so wondering why you're getting the results that you're getting, you can look around and go, oh, it's because of these 55% of the habits that I'm running that I'm not aware of. So let's talk about a couple of what habits we're talking about. You know, every day you come home from work and you stretch out your hamstrings, right? Or you bite your nails, or you walk every day, or you drink alcohol after work to calm down, or you meditate when you're stressed, or you watch TV every day, right? Thinking about what are some things that you do on a continual basis. Now, if we know that a habit is a thought cue, a cue thought trigger, right, behavior of what the reward is going to be, we could start to ponder, well, okay, these are my habits. What are my cues? Well, what makes me stretch my hamstrings after work is I'll see my yoga mat, and that's my cue. If my boss calls and the phone lights up, I might bite my nails. Open the window, smells great outside, I might walk outside. You see what I mean? These certain cues are happening, and then it's triggering a behavioral response. So every time you sit on the couch, does the TV go on, right? So the science of habits, right? This is what's happening. Well, they did a study in Stanford, and they've done it many times. It's been repeated pretty successfully, but it started in Stanford. They built a T shape. Yes, I did do this artwork, by the way. I know. It's pretty sad. But there's a T shape here, T-shaped maze, and they put all the little electrical wiring onto the rat's brain, and they put the little snack up there in the top of the T, and that rat's brain was just lit up, right? It's stiffened and like trying to find his way, and his brain completely gets lit up. But guess what happens after he does it again, and the second time, and the third time, and the 20th time, and the 50th time? That brain is not lighting up anymore. And what they found, which was so revealing, was that not only was his brain not lighting up to the extent it was when it was new to him, but his brain was wired and showing the activity as if he were sleeping. Let's say that again. So him going to the food source, because he's done it so many times, his brain could go to sleep, the same activity as when he's sleeping, and he's still doing the behavior. So that's why we say you're sleeping through your life if you're not mindfully aware. They know this because when they built this different maze, right? As soon as it was in a different place, he lit up again. So doing different things, challenging ourselves in different ways will keep that brain lit up. We talk a lot about what we wear. We talk a lot about how our hair looks. We talk a lot about all that stuff, but are we keeping our brains healthy, challenging ourselves, learning new things, keeping our mind questioning? This is how that brain stays healthy, being really curious. Okay, well, if you wanted to build a habit, right? If you wanted to build a healthy habit, you wanted to start doing a meditation routine in the morning, or you wanted to start stretching those hamstrings after work, what do you have to do? They're telling us you have to make a pairing, right? So trying to find a pairing that would work for you. I'm going to hang my gym clothes next to the bed before I go to sleep, or I'm going to, put my ankle weights by the dog leash so that I remember to put my ankle weights on while I walk the dog. So remembering that this is what's going to help trigger you, finding those pairings is going to help you be even more successful, whether you're building or breaking it. If you took away my cream, right? If you took away the milk from my coffee, I don't want my coffee, right? I don't want you to do that. Please don't take my coffee away. So what I want you to ponder here in this video, so you get a takeaway, is to take a piece of paper and think about what pairs work well for you. And maybe you'll do it after the webinar, but what are some of the things that you're aware of? What are you doing every single day? And what is the trigger or the cue that's matching you for that? When you hear the car drive up, your spouse coming home from work, what kind of feelings do you have? When you see the alarm clock go off, what kinds of feelings are you having? So starting to notice the pairing in your life is going to be really interesting. Everything I do in the inner gaze work is about noticing yourself, just being really self-reflective. You can look at the starry sky and think, man, what's out there? That's amazing. But you could also go, man, what's in here? That's amazing. And so that's what we're doing, because what's inside is what's outside. Okay, so here, I want you to try it. So what is a habit you want to build next month? Pick something. You want to take yoga classes weekly. You want to walk every day. You want to get better night's sleep at night, something like that. And like I said, figuring out what the cue is that would help trigger that, and what would the reward be for getting it. That's really the secret sauce too. We don't often think about, well, if I did yoga classes every day, right? What would the reward be? I would be successful. Yeah, but what else? I would have a sense of inner calm that I'd never known existed before. I would have the pain in my neck and the headaches that I'm affected with would be almost alleviated, if not gone completely. Like really settle in. What are those rewards? What are those powerful rewards? And what would be enough incentive for you to do them? Now, as you know, you got to practice that for 30 days, and that's how you do it. So bye. Thank you for watching. Right? You know that you have to have that habit loop, right? We know that a thought becomes this action with this perceived reward, and that's how the habit's going to go. We have the cue, we have the thought, we have the trigger, and then we have what we think is the reward. And we have to do it again and again and again, like that T maze. And then we have to do it like an X, and we have to keep our brains alert and da 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 da. But we know that, and it's not always working. It's not always working. So I'm going to pause here for a second. So what is going on? What is going on? So what I am teaching here is there is also a different level of your brain, of your mind. And one of the ways that one of my teachers that I really love, Michael Singer, talks about is this idea: if you were sleeping, right? If you were sleeping and you get up the next morning and you're like, I had the most amazing dream. It was like the most amazing dream. There was this and this and this and this. It's like, well, how do you know? Because you were sleeping, right? How do you know that you had this really amazing dream? Because really your brain was asleep. And that's what this is. There's a part of your brain, we call it the witness. You could call it soul. You could call it the Atman. You could call it the wise voice. You could call it whatever you want. Some people would say God, right? There's a part of us that's sort of watching our behavior, watching what we say, watching our dreams, watching what we think, seeing things that maybe we're not really focused on out here in our periphery, right? There is a part of our brain that can just watch the storm rather than get swept up in it. And the work that I'm encouraging folks to do is, can you lean back a little bit? Can you lean back a little bit and just observe what the desire, what the craving, what the thought patterns are without getting caught by them? The same way as if you were watching leaves float back by on a stream, right? You're not having to chase squirrel like everyone, like my dog, right? You could just let it pass. Then here comes another one, and let it pass, right? We can do that with our thoughts. And so part of mindful awareness is understanding that that's part of what it is, and leaning more and more back into that is a really beautiful practice. All right. Back to where we were now. Let's jump over here. Sorry, let's go back. So you're going to practice it and you're going to turn on that inner awareness. So now there's one more level here, one more level that I want to ponder with you. And that is when you are sitting back there, right? This is pretty deep work we're getting ready to talk about. So hang with me, okay? If we talk about that part of your brain that is watching yourself dream, right? You know that there is some level of mind that's watching. What we do, and one of our biggest habits, I mean, like one of the biggest habits that we have is we take our mind and we watch the chatter and then we judge whether it's good or bad, 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 good or bad. And it just takes us even farther away from the task of like getting the dishes done before you go to bed, or you know, making sure you make it to the gym every day. We start getting distracted like the dog chasing his tail, right? And letting that spin us out just completely away. We get more and more of a habit of indulging or perseverating on the thoughts than actually being able to lean back and witness them. So by this, I'm saying not only are we watching our thoughts, and it gets easier, I promise, not only are we getting better at that, but we are getting better at noticing how we judge ourselves and how we think about ourselves and how we are sort of holding ourselves back by these routines of thoughts. Now, if you go to my website, you'll see some videos on karma and videos on different mindset work where you can see more examples of this. But there's a freeing quality about just leaning back, right? And not getting caught with the minutia. And remembering that this too shall pass, as it always does. Okay. So leaning back and finding that witness pause. Now, the example is when we were looking at those habits, stretching after work, we could say is a good habit. That's a good habit. And we could say biting your nails is a bad habit. That's a bad habit. But that is what I'm talking about. That then takes us even off the track. What if it just is? There's no stretching your hamstrings and drinking a bottle of wine every night equal. There's no good or bad. They're just cause, effect, cause, effect. You drink a bottle of wine every night, you'll have an effect. You stretch your body every day after work, you'll have an effect. And that just is what it is without getting caught in judgment. Because as I'm saying here, one of our habits of distraction is sitting in the perseverating of whether the habits are good or bad. It's kind of funny that way. All right. So what is the inner circle? What is this all about, this group, Healthy Habits for Wild Women Over 40? Well, we're wild. The women in my group are wild. They like to do things their way. They want to work at their own pace. They want to be around people who aren't judging them. They truly want to feel as if they can feel cozy. They don't want to feel too rigid, demanding, or judgy in any way, right? Yeah, it's an interesting thing. Let's pop up here to the big one again. Okay. So what is a hygge? A hygge, it derives from hygge. It's a 16th century Norwegian term meaning to comfort or to console, which is related to the English word hug, right? It's a quality of coziness and comfortable conviviality that engenders a feeling of contentment or well-being. Now that's what it is, but this is what it feels like, right? This is what the group feels like. It's a hygge. They're happily sitting together, right? This perfect picture, perfect of what it feels like, because they're sitting there happily together. They're not trying to get each other to engage, right? They're content being by themselves, but together. They're in their senses. They can smell the sea. They can feel the sand. Like all of the senses are there. They're being creative. They're being loving. They're really spending time in quiet and in a meditative practice. It really, it feels like that. So the hygge. Now, who is the group for? Over the years, some women come in and it's not right for everyone. It's definitely not right for everyone. It is right for women who really want to be self-reflective. As I said, it's ideal for the women, as I was describing at the beginning of this webinar, 40s to 70s, who want to learn how to manage their stress and their lives within a loving community who witnesses you while building and designing a life that you truly love. You're going to feel like your life is full of service, and you're going to feel like you're doing it on a full tank. I promise. We don't break and start habits in the group. We are just mindfully moving through our habits and moving through our lives while we notice and we learn how to care about how we feel. So when it comes down to sleep, like, how do I feel about my sleep? We start to move everything from how we feel. How do I feel about how much movement I'm getting? Let's start from there. We allow our wise voice to guide us into our own natural and right living. We align ourselves with nature. We balance out, and we do it alongside others who are doing the same. Okay. So basically, this is kind of the way I look at the inner circle. So let's say that there are all these different levels of understanding, right? So we could say that the habit we're working on is like good night's sleep, right? That's a popular habit in December. So everyone's working on a good night's sleep. This person's understanding of how to get a good night's sleep is like a little bit high, but there's a lot left, right? And a lot left to do. Well, they don't know what is possible because this is where they are, right? So they think like, I got here, like, I don't even know how I would do more. But then we have somebody who's ahead, right? Someone else who's getting, their 8 or 9 hours of sleep. What are they doing? What are they doing? And you yourself are here, and you could look down at someone who's not getting any sleep, and you could say, I remember when I was there, right? I remember that. And they're looking at you the same way. Well, in the inner circle, we're all at different levels on all the different habits. Sometimes the habits are easy, sometimes the habits are challenging, and this is where we are. And this is how it feels, right? This is how it feels. We don't feel judged. We don't feel like we're falling behind, nothing like that. So I asked in this recent this recent survey, what people thought, and you can read some of these responses. I feel love, compassion, and gratitude for all the women in my group. Everyone's been vulnerable at one time or another. That's what creates a bond. Since we're sharing intimate struggles and follow each other's progress, I feel a deep connection to everyone. I appreciate and care about all members of the Hygge. Hearing people share makes me feel close to them. I quickly grew to appreciate each unique person and their journeys and how much we contribute to others as we grow and share together every week. They really feel like my Hygge now. I'm very fond of all of them and feel they support and care about me too. I have compassion for them as they are, like me, women who are putting themselves into a vulnerable position, offering very personal information to seek growth. So it's an intimate practice. And the habit that we are growing together over all the other habits that we do, like bedtime routine, morning time routine, healthy eating, sensuality month. We have a month on movement. We have a month on relationships. Besides all those 12 healthy habits, the main habit we're focusing on is self-awareness, right? We see what unconscious thoughts are driving us, and we practice making them conscious. We learn to actually be deliberate in our thinking as how we maintain these healthy habits as a daily way of life. It runs in our unconscious because it just becomes the way we are, the way we're being. It's built into our daily lives. Okay. So the healthy habits are designed to balance us out in the season. Like I said, we are nature. So there's certain winter habits that we focus on. There's certain spring, certain summer, fall, like they're different depending upon nature's rhythms, changes the rhythms that we have too. Like I said, sleep, relationship, decluttering is a popular month, nurturing our artist. A lot of times I hear this, I appreciate my life a lot more. It's a pretty powerful thing to say. So the way I look at it is a merry-go-round, right? You're never going to get perfect at these things. A lot of times people say, I just got my bedtime routine and now we're already moving on to healthy eating. It's not about perfecting it. It's about just noticing and grazing around like, oh, this is a fun month. Oh, I don't like this month. Right? I want it to feel very smooth and easy. Sometimes when people are really getting a handle on a habit, they'll continue to work their bedtime routine or whatever it is for 2 or 3 months and maybe not work on the other habits, as I was saying, but really finding your own personal groove. You can get on and ride as long as you want to. You can get off without leaving the park, take a month off if something happens in your life that's sort of stressful or whatever. Maybe you're not focusing on sensuality month, right? So it's about holding you accountable wherever you are in a loving community of people who want to live deliberately. Okay. So this is basically what it is. It's mindfulness, it's accountability, it's community, and it is routines. We practice asking for what we need. I want you to listen. I want advice. I want feedback. I want support. We practice seeing how we're reflective of how we say, I'm going to clean out the fridge this next week. And then it's like, I forgot to clean out the fridge. We get to see ourselves very clearly. And sometimes we're all together, like we're all just like a mess, right? We all are not getting a good night's sleep because it was a big holiday party. And sometimes we're all doing our own thing and everybody's having fun. And sometimes everybody's doing great but you, right? Everybody's great but you. So what is it about these specific healthy habits? I'm grateful to have learned techniques to listen better to myself, take time for myself, and be proactive to maintaining an overall happier and more balanced lifestyle. I've learned to set better boundaries for myself. I now feel less guilty, as a big one, and am better able to say no to others. A lot of the women that gravitate toward my work are women who are in the healthcare industry or who are caregivers or parents or teachers or PTs, and a lot of therapists, people who are giving, learning how to say no and learning how to sort of shore up some of those boundaries. Finally, I look forward to taking time to think about my journey once a week, and the messages stay with me. I'm getting insight into the lives of other women. I think it has decreased the amount of negative thinking I do. One woman said, this is my second time around. I'm starting to understand myself a little better. It's amazing how clueless one can be about one's motivations and actions. I am seeing that this is an ongoing process. There is no learn it and forget it. I've been running the program 7 to 8 years now, and I'm learning each year too. So my sleep is much better since joining the inner circle. I have more tools to use to take care of myself and my family. So this is it. This is our little hygge. This is another way I think of it, is that we're all kind of coming together, warming ourselves by the fire, and having some time to connect. Okay, so I told you at the beginning that there was going to be some challenges for your personal habits. And the two personal habits that I'm challenging you on in this webinar is, number one, don't judge your thoughts. Don't say this is a good thought, this is a bad thought, this is a good thought, this is a bad thought. That is another habit that distracts you away from what you're trying to actually solve with the thoughts, right? So I just want you to be noticing the thoughts and then caring about how you feel. Some of those thoughts are going to align with how you want to feel, and some of those thoughts are going to not align. So which ones do we pick? The way that I want to feel. I want to feel hopeful or optimistic. I want to pick something like that. Okay. The second habit we often have is we have a habit of not making a decision, which is torturous. I gotta figure out what I'm going to do about that. Oh, I'm going to put that on. I gotta come up with the right. We do this to ourselves. And sometimes the decisions don't have to be this big, hairy deal. They don't have to be this big, heavy thing. So in this next moment, I'm going to give you a 60-second decision. I'm going to set my timer. And I want you just to practice, right? I'm not going to see you do it, so there's no pressure. But I'm going to challenge you to practice just deciding and then letting it go, right? 60 seconds. I want you to sit with it, sit with it, sit with it, sit with it, and then make a decision and let it go. We're not going to end the minute with, I don't know, or I need to look into it further or anything. I want you just to see what it feels like to make a decision and go with it. One of the most helpful thoughts I've ever had, by the way, is this answer. There is no right decision. You just make the decision right. And I have found that to be very freeing. There is no right decision. You just make the decision right. So what is this decision? Dun, 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 dun. Do you want to join our hygge? You knew that was coming. So it's $149. You get all the yoga classes that I have. I have 5 classes a week. They're all delivered on this portal. Classes about when you have a heavy heart, classes about when you have gas, classes about migraine relief, chest openers, what the doshas are, all kinds of classes, all levels. You can come live to any of them that you want to. You could also do all of them on the recording, plus lots of tutorials for people who are brand spanking new. There's gentle classes, there's restorative classes after work, there's morning classes, there's classes with weights, there's classes with core, and that's been going on for about 2 years since Kylo started. I'm bringing these 2 programs together. So for $149, you get all of the weekly meetings, live meetings. You get all the exclusive inner circle lessons, plus all the Kylo Keep Your Light On yoga classes that we've been doing. The meeting times are Wednesday at 11, Thursdays at 7, and Mondays at 7. All these times are Central Time. And if you don't want to be a part of the live meeting inner circle, you can still do this membership and you can have all the lessons and do it on your own. You and I can have email check-ins if you would like to do that extra support. I also have tune-up calls. Some people like to upgrade and get the $100 $100 1 hour coaching call once a month if you wanted to do that. It's whatever you need. Okay. But do you want to do it? I'm going to set the timer for 60 seconds. I want you to think about what's being said to you right now. 3-month commitment, $149 a month. Join the Inner Circle Women's Group. Come live to one of the meetings at the Central Time, or have it all in your own private membership exclusive portal. And you could be doing it on yourself, doing it by yourself, being able to attend all the yoga classes for free, live, or enjoy them on the recording. You can filter out things for hips, things for hamstrings, and do it there. Do you want to do it? 60 seconds and go. Watch your thoughts. Don't judge the thoughts, just watch them chatter. Keep leaning back to that big mind, the mind that watches the dreams, the mind that watches the thoughts. Which one's going to line with the way you want to feel right now? 5, 4, 3, 2, boom, done. And then let it go. 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 Right? There's no right decision. You say no, other consequences, other effects will take place. You say yes, other consequences, other effects will take place. Doesn't matter which path you went down, right? Which path you went down. It's just you deal with the consequences, you live the consequences, you benefit from the consequences of that path. That's it. Okay. I hope that you have a takeaway from this webinar that's really going to serve you. Remember, the biggest habit I'm suggesting is the fear of making a decision. I want you to challenge yourself on that. Number 2, the habit of judging your thoughts rather than noticing them in a neutral way is the second habit. And third, what are some of the pairs that you're looking at in your life? When you think about your habit, what do you think the cue is? What are you thinking the reward is? Start to look at yourself in a mindful way. And again, if you want some help with that, that's what I'm here for. Join my inner circle, my women's group, and join me on the yoga mat and start to work through that stuff in a loving community of people who live deliberately. Thanks so much for watching. I hope this is a benefit to you, and I'll see you somewhere along the road, and deep bows to you all. Reach out if you want more, and namaste.